about what we did in the last session. We might run through a few things, but our aim is too much on making it successful. We're helping the athletes be successful in a false way by talking to them and reminding them on the things they should have remembered anyway. The things they should remember, we're already talking about and helping them guide them through, when they should be remembering it themselves or helping each other remember it. So we're not helping them grow and learn. The process I'm looking at is this growth. So we check understanding here, we've got to step back and we can deal with any changes. Next session comes in, this first phase after the warm-up is a covert recall. We put a scenario in, we don't say anything, and we see what the recall is like. Do they remember it? Do they understand it to a point they can apply it and review it within their roles as a team and individual without my input? Then that will impact on what this session is. The reality is, if they're not nailing it there, I can't move on to what I planned. We've got to cover what was in there in some distance, and I need to step back again and make sure they can do it. Because it's wrong of me to move on. And I'll show you a bit more detail, but that's a fundamental principle. And before they leave, we're stepping back again. Can they do it without my intervention, without my support? I can't even say anything. I can't even say, great, great, because I'm telling them it was great. And also, I can't say it was great and then put them and go, how was that? It was great, coach. So just be relevant and mindful of when we say things and when we shouldn't. So this is just the framework again, in just in a different way, if just so you can, I won't dwell on that, it's just you have this as a printout. This is how it would look on a slide, exactly the same. Test from last session after the warm-up. Deal with any differences. So a great example of that is they haven't got it, you pull them in, it's a judgment call how long, but it only should be a few minutes. Guys, remind me of what we did last time. Show me, bang, off you go. Still not telling them? It's okay now. So that's telling me, okay, they've got it, understood it, but I probably need to put it in a bit more often, so I'm going to include a few small scenarios to help rep it in. They do it again, they haven't got it, okay, pull them back, something's wrong here. Okay guys, we're not ready to move on because we haven't got this. If the team hasn't got it, whose fault is it? Coach's fault. So we need to change the content of this because we're not ready to move on. So dump out some of the stuff we planned, because now we need to deal with the problem. We need to step away again. Now they can do it. Okay, I've noted we need to go through this a bit more. And then anything left, you can start putting new content in. But you've always should, I know you're doing this anyway, you should always prioritize the content in the session anyway, from number 1, 2, 3. So if you say, if I could only do one thing, what would it be? Number 1. This would be the second. So you're always comfortable what you can drop off if you need to. Because number 1's important. Can we see, is that easier to follow as a framework? And this is what a critical test might be. So I would always suggest, always put one in from the session before. So session 1 and then session 2 after warm-up, recall from that. But also put in some covert tests here as well. So it might be 3/4 away halfway through a session. You put a situation in and step back of something they alert at 1. And you're auditing it. You're actually Excel sheet, whatever you want to use, you're auditing success or not. So that's checking, yeah, it's really gone in. You can adapt the pressure load on these as well. Make sense? And this is an example when I worked with England Rugby. This was when I worked with Mike Ford, the defence coach there. So this was a pattern. Now, don't worry too much about it. But by the third session, this will be comfy to you. All it simply is this is like you have your crazy language for basketball. This is some crazy language in rugby right here. That's all it is. Now, all we do is imagine that is content of a session, a critical element of their growth. Have we sold it? Do they see value? It's a tick, yes. Of the session when they learned it in performance, did they get it 3/4 way through the session? Yes. All of these now are covert tests that is auditing. So this is bang, 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 and it keeps. So here's an example of some of the ticks crosses. So this one, yes. First covert retest, they didn't get it. 3A is a coding we use for a level of pressure. So on this one, no, didn't get it. So now we had to readjust the session, work again. He tried an adaptation of it, he stepped. So he changed the distance, which actually made it a bit harder because they got it when he tested it, but it wasn't in a covert. As soon as he did covert again, it didn't work. So he knew he was pushing them too quick. Just wasn't working. It was working when it was fresh short-term memory, but it wasn't working any recall. So he dropped the whole content of 2 sessions to work on it. Covert recall then in the following session, under this pressure, they got it right. So his his review of that was he was moving too quick. It was something that he thought they knew, but in reality they didn't. And their understanding wasn't there, so we had to spend more time on it. So he had to adjust his content of his sessions for success. Here's another one. Here we go. Tick, yes, got it. Loaded it again, a bit more difficult. So higher difficulty, same content. Didn't get it. Adapted a bit more. Higher pressure content. Yes, they got it. So later on, what happened was he was getting a bunch of ticks in more pressure with covert recall, which made him more confident in a match to be able to apply it. This, I mean, everyone that I've used this with said this is the most powerful tool in understanding is our content right. Because this is giving us evidence right here. It's giving us evidence that they're remembering stuff and they can apply it under different levels of pressure. And we're doing our covert checks and determining what level of pressure we want to place on the team to check their competency. So we start off with polite play. So for yours it'd be polite 5-on-5, yes. Okay, now I'm going to get nasty, as I call it. Right, take the teams, right, you know his weaknesses, wind him up, break him down, you know the score, get them to work literally against each other, and now see if they're breaking it. Set an attack protocol on acceptable and unacceptable for this team, and then a defence one, second attack and defence protocol for this one, acceptable and unacceptable, and make them go at each other, make it be nasty. Now see, is the competency the same, or is it now regressed? If it's the same, we're doing a great job. If it's regressing, you probably need to load it a bit more. But this is the type of thing that we can work on in the pressure loading, which we'll go into, not the next session, but the session after that. But I just want, can you see the value of it? It's a really good tool of evidence base for learning. And then the no compromise elements to finish off. We spoke about that at the beginning. For me, it's vital. Happy with that with the review? You can determine the time span, but in total for them chatting on their own and you chatting, you don't want to be going over the 60 seconds because that's the reality of a timeout. So it's a good target to work through. See how that fits in with everything we talked about? They can do it without you. That's your marking. First check of learning. Short-term memory, yes, they can do it without me. The next true check is covert recall. Long-term recall, can they now do it without me reminding them? Then we can get a real tick in. Yeah, my content and pace is good. And again, we're back to we are where we are, baseline it, and we're ready when we're ready. There's no rush here. If we're pursuing excellence in every moment, every athlete is, we're going at the fastest pace we can, then we're doing great. You can't rush any faster than that. And these are self-questions, so this is almost what we need to ask ourselves as coaches. Is it new? Then we have to sell the why before the what and the how. So they need to see the value. Should they have the knowledge, then we can challenge them. We shouldn't be reminding them. More importantly, should they have the how, should they be able to apply it? Well, yeah, we'll ask them to show you. Set scenarios up. Don't talk about it at all. Here we go, show me. Do they understand? Find out. Do they understand meaning? Make sure when we're using words they understand the meaning, which we did early on when I put that sheet up there. Really key. Common mistakes. We're happy with the first one, yeah, that's obvious. If we don't agree those acceptables, unacceptables and clarity, what problem are we going to have? We don't do this second one. So we haven't made it clear what the acceptables, unacceptables are on what success is at that part of the session. What's going to happen with the review?
Well, it becomes subjective. Some people think they've done it fine and some people not.
Yeah, the review's going to be all over the place. It's not going to be clear until then they're going to start talking about all sorts of stuff. Check and change success by performance before behaviour. Don't get caught up with that. Behaviour, behaviour, behaviour. If that's working, the only thing that's going to go wrong is you're giving them the wrong content. But don't start catching the performance and then backtracking to behaviour. Behaviour, behaviour, behaviour. Even based after a match, review the match based on behaviour first, which you should be doing during the match, by the way, not just waiting to the end. Whose behaviour should you be looking at during a match? Well, come on, that's not a trick question. Players and coaches and support coaches. Everyone's behaviour. Are we all doing our job right now? Not rushing it too much, that's another common mistake. too much change too often, too much content. We're trying to cram too much in. Now it becomes teaching focused again because we're trying to make it successful. Biggest mistake. Golf is horrendous for this, by the way. Inconsistent messages and standards. We keep shifting things. We're not being consistent with our words, our terminology, our language. They're all over the place. They're just lost now. And management not supporting the change or the people involved in the change. So if we're doing this, and this is what I'm really excited about this, they've brought me in for so many days, and we've got mentors here that buy into the philosophy and value. We're working together as an organisation to implement and support each other on this. It's just not one person trying to do it on their own, and then all of a sudden they're off, and then they get asked to do something else. We know this is embedded. We know it's here to stay. We know you will have time and support to facilitate the long-term change, which you don't often get in organisations. So this is why I'm genuinely excited about this, that we can continue to see each other and support each other. You've got mentors and people in place, and coach to coach, where you can help each other grow on this. And it's not just a quick fix, then all of a sudden there's a new thing coming out next month. And this, just to finish off, it's players need, and athletes, coaches, managers, we just need to make sure it's not about theory, it's about the understanding of it. Happy with going forward, what we need to do. What are we all going to do? What are we not going to do? Are you doing anything? What are we going to do, guys, on this table when we go away?
Record yourselves coaching.
Record yourselves coaching, matches and training.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Can we have a show of hands who's committed to doing that, please? Beautiful. Are you all committed to bringing that with you with an audit next time we meet? So film it often enough. Let's get a trend, because once you start implementing this, your first film will be very different to the last film before we meet again.